Welcome back to my channel. Today we're smoking a baby brisket. So I have dubbed it the baby brisket. It's less than 10 pounds, by far the smallest brisket I have ever smoked. So this happens the night before. I got this pan where I put the brisket. I am gonna season it, wrap it, and then leave it overnight in my refrigerator so we can kind of marinate in its own juices. Today I am gonna be using SPG, which is salt, pepper, garlic. It's a rub that I got from Grillaholics. A lot of these products that you see here, I do have a link on the description below, especially or specifically if you go to Grillaholics and you use the promo code The Smoking Beard, they'll give you, I think it's a 20% off on your order. So check them out. They have some really cool stuff. But let's go ahead and get this baby dressed. I usually like to start with the fat cap only because I am gonna season it, but I'm not gonna go overboard on it. This is where all the fat is, basically the non-rendable that's not going to melt off anyways. So just kind of give it a nice little tender seasoning. Turn it around. I think it smells pretty good. Okay. Now that we have it nice and seasoned, the next thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and I'm going to wrap it in foil. 24 hours later and we're back. I'm gonna be smoking this baby brisket in my gravity fed smoker. All the steps that I'm telling you, I mean, as long as you keep the same temperatures in your type of smoker, you can follow the same steps. I'm gonna go over my setup real quick. The foil paper I used to wrap the top part of when I put it in my refrigerator, I put it down there just to make a easier cleanup. I did put a cast iron, I guess you would call it a pot or a skillet down there with some apple cider vinegar. I've already loaded my brisket. I loaded it with the fat side down and the round part towards the heat source, which is this way. That way this flat part does not dry out as much. The water is there, or not the water, but the apple cider vinegar is there to help keep the moisture. I am going to be monitoring my smoker on the inside, just the inside temperature of the smoker and the internal temperature of my brisket. So the next step here is to close it up, and you can monitor it a couple of ways. I have a analog thermometer here, but I also have this thermoworks. I have this signals and billows. There you can see that over there, the billows fan. What that does is it basically makes my smoker an electric smoker. What I can tell it with that fan is to I set it at a certain temperature. Here I set it at 225, so we're going to be smoking at 225 today. So I set it at 225, and what this ends up doing is it'll keep on pushing air in through that fan until it reaches the temperature it needs. Once it hits 225, it'll stop, and it kind of maintains your temperature all the way throughout the cook. I've been using this setup already for the last 6 or 8 times, and it has yet to fail me. It keeps the temperatures within 1 or 2 degrees of where it's supposed to be all through the cook. These products, if you want, I have a link on the description below. You can use those links for thermoworks, and if you use my affiliate link, it kind of also helps support my channel. But for the first 4 hours, more or less, we're going to just keep it as is. We're looking for an internal temperature at the end of the smoke of about 200 to 205 before we pull out the brisket. But there's some things that are going to happen in between to try to make your brisket a success. We're about 2 hours in here. Internal temp right now is 109, which is fine. Still hasn't hit the stall. As you can see, my smoker is hitting the 225 that I set it up with. Let's see what this guy looks like after a couple of hours of low and slow. Whoa. All right, so here we go. Starting to get a little bit of color. Cool. Rolling that blue smoke. That's always a good sign. So we've been here roughly about 4 hours smoking this brisket. Right now, internal temp is 144 degrees, still hitting the 225. I'm gonna open this baby up to see what it looks like after roughly about 4 hours. All right, still working on that color. It's coming along. All right, I know. Welcome back. We've been smoking now for about 10 hours, a little bit 10 and a half hours. Internal temp right now is 169. Still holding on true to that 226. Yeah. So you can leave it the way it is. You can also, which I'm gonna do today, you can also wrap it. And when you wrap it, you have a couple of options. You can do a foil paper or you can do butcher paper. This time around, I'm gonna be doing butcher paper. And the difference between foil and butcher is that when you do foil, it'll speed up the process and it'll give you a softer bark. It'll pretty much stop allowing any type of smoke to get in. When you do butcher, it speeds up the process a little bit as well, but it doesn't stop a lot of the smoke from coming in. It still breathes a little bit. So it just depends on the type of brisket and how you like it. If you like it with a lot of smoky flavor, leave it the way it is. If you like it with a little bit less smoky flavor and the bark a little bit softer, do a butcher paper. And if you like it with the least amount of smoke with the softest bark, then you would do the foil. This time around, I'm going to be doing butcher paper, so let me get to that. So I just wanted to show you guys how powerful this thermoworks system is. The graph that you see in front of you is the current smoke that I have going on with the brisket. It's telling you on the top that it has about 11 and a half hours into the smoke. And it's graphing the temperatures. The green line is the internal temperature of the smoker, and the yellow line is the internal temperature of the meat probe. So if you can see, there's 3 dips on the green line. That's when I opened it 3 times. The first time I checked it at 2 hours, then at 4, and then a little while ago when I wrapped it. And you can clearly see on the green line that it consistently stays at 225 throughout the whole cook. If you notice, I also, if you guys remember, I bumped up the temperature to 235, and it's illustrated right there. The yellow line really illustrates the internal temperature of a brisket and why it takes so long. Notice how it goes up pretty quick and then it kind of stalls out. There's that little curve right there, and it was just about getting out of that curve at the very end, right before I wrapped it. I don't know if you noticed, it's kind of going up a little bit faster. So my stall we had just come out of the stall, and now that I raised the temperature a little bit, you're noticing that the temperature on the inside of the brisket is also going up as well. But just something to keep in mind whenever you're smoking. You want to try to make your life as easy as possible, only because they do take a long time, and you sometimes want to be able to come inside and have peace of mind that your stuff outside is on point. So the butcher paper I'm talking about is this pink butcher paper. Don't just get whatever butcher paper. It's meant for smoking. This one was a small brisket, so I didn't have to I don't think I'm gonna have to layer this. We'll see. There's enough room on each side. What you want to do is you want to try to, man, look at that color. It looks nice. You're gonna try to tuck it in as much as possible. Stick it back in the smoker. Stick the meat probe back in there. Try to get the center. Make sure your water pan doesn't run out of water down there. I just add a little bit of water. We're going to continue smoking this until we hit that internal temperature of 200 to 205. The internal temperature of my smoker has already hit 202. Or I was gonna try to make it to about 205, 202, 205. So the internal temp of my smoker is at 202. Sweet spot right there, 200 to 205, 202. So the next step here, check it out, still rolling smoke. Next step here is to go ahead and open this baby up. Whoo-wee! Pull this over here. Now it is temperature. It already met the internal temp that we want. But in order for your brisket to come out as tender as possible and as juicy as possible, what you got to do here is you got to let it rest. Rule of thumb here is close to 2 hours, as close to 2 hours as possible. So after this baby has been sitting in this cooler for about 2 hours, it's time to slice it. You always want to cut against the grain. This grain is coming this way, so I'm going to cut against it. So let's see what this baby is going to produce. Well, that's a good sign. Not that it adds any flavor to it, but it has a nice little smoke ring to it. Thanks to the gravity fed. Oh, I did put a towel underneath here just to help it with the friction. And I find, I'm going to actually flip this over because I find it easier to slice up from the bottom or where the fat cap is. Since the top part has a little bit more of a stiffer bark because it is the lean part, it's easier to slice it from the top, from the bottom part. Good little smoke ring. You always want to cut against the grain. Now we'll see right now, but I might have to rotate this once the other part of the brisket comes into play, the point. Look at that. Smoke ring all over. This brisket had very little moist to it, which sometimes that's what people like. I like the moist part, so it got very, very little. This top part is the only moist part, so that's gonna be mine. But all in all, not too bad of a cook for this baby brisket. This over here is gonna be the moist. There you go. And that's how simple it is to smoke a brisket from beginning to end. Nice little smoke ring. Got my moist part over here, but can't complain. All right, guys, this has been the Smoking Beard. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think on the comments, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.